Well, good morning. It's July 29th. I finally got the video edited. As you recall, we had an axle failure back in April, and it's been a little bit of a nightmare ever since. We put a lot of trust in the repair guy. Come to find out, once we took it apart, it wasn't what it should have been. So we now have 6,000-pound twin Lippert axles on board. But even a professional like me, ha ha ha, I made a mistake during the install. I'm going to give you a hint in the video. Go ahead and watch it and see if you can find out what the actual problem was. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you if you were right or not. Okay, so enjoy. Again, it's 50-something minutes long. Enjoy. We'll see you at the end.
All right. Good morning. July 1st, 2020 already. Can you believe it? And I still don't have my axles on yet. Yeah, I got the axle that got repaired back at the end of April installed. But after further review, the installer actually put it on backwards. If you know anything about axles, the wires are supposed to go out the back of the axle. He mounted the axle facing forward. Some of you are saying, that don't mean nothing. Yeah, that was until we went to go pick up my other axle. As you know, I used to have Dexters on my rig. And after the Spindle failure, we decided to go with Lippert. Lippert was the quickest one that was available. By chance, I'm going from 5,200-pound Dexters to 6,000-pound Lipperts. So I asked the guy that put on the first axle, before I learned everything I'm about ready to show you, to order me another axle, and I would change it myself. He's located about 2.5, 3 hours away. I said, I'll make one trip up to pick up that axle once he had it done. Now, when I say done, he was supposed to weld on some what they call leaf spring perches, or the support brackets for the leaf springs. So I slid it here in my shed, and I'm going to show you here. And when I laid it down on the ground, something caught my eye. And it was this perch right here. It didn't look level. I said, wait a minute. Well, maybe it's not sitting on the level ground. So then I looked at the other one. I said, well, it's level. Why isn't this one level? That's got to be an optical illusion. So perches are supposed to be parallel with the flatness. Here, let's see if I can show you this. Of the axle, right here. Can you see that? I don't know. Okay. So I put them on a board and checked to make sure I was level, and went back and checked both perches. So what I came up with, let me get my app open here. I want this to be fair. I am using a cell phone with the bubble level on it, and I wanted a nice smooth surface. So I'm going to use this surface here. And I think you can see that bottom number there. And it shows you 0.4. That's 0.4 degrees off of being flat. Okay, well, let me grab the camera here a second. I don't know what you can see and what you can't see. Okay. And then I put it on the perch, and I'm 3.6 degrees off. Can you guys see that? Hopefully you can. I know you can't see all on my cell phone. Okay. So then I went over to the other side. Let me take you down here real quick. All right. Let's see if that'll work right there. I'll stand behind the camera. You can see the board is 0.2 degrees, and the perch is 0.4 degrees. So as you can see, I have one leaf spring perch that's 3.5 degrees off level. Okay? That was a concern to me. So basically, I'm gonna put you here so you guys can, hopefully you can see me. Toss this up a little bit so I don't have to hold you and have you all shaking and everything. So I was a little bit concerned about that, because if I have my unit sitting on, my leaf spring sitting on an axle, you would think that that one would be perfectly horizontal. You don't want one of your leaf springs to be tilted one way, because when you tighten your U-bolts, you're going to be pulling up or twisting the axle or pulling down on the spring, more than likely that, and putting your axle into a twist. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, could this be the cause of some of my fellow Grand Design owners having leaf spring supports breaking off of their RVs? I don't know. I'm not an expert. I can sit there and do the math, and I can tell you that's not right. So I challenged the guy that did the repairs. I says, hey, you welded this on wrong. No, I didn't. I welded it exactly the way I found it on your Dexter axle. Great. One problem. They're Lippert axles now. Did you ever think about going to Lippert and find out what their requirements are? No, they're all the same. Dexter said it's okay. How much does Dexter say is okay? 5 degrees plus or minus. My jaw dropped down to the floor. I said, you got to be kidding. So I contacted Lippert and I says, what is your requirement? Our engineering specs are within 1 degree of the purchase, leaf spring purchase. 1 degree of each other. I said, well, that I would accept. Up to 5 degrees difference? I just showed you almost 3.5 degree difference. I wouldn't want to put that axle on my unit. So during the conversation, I said, hey, by the way, you put my axle on wrong. The wires are supposed to be facing backwards. Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, well, you can tell where this repair was starting to go. I says, well, I'm going to get this axle fixed and put it in that spot, since I have to pull that axle anyway. What exactly will I find on that axle? He said, you'll find the same thing that I found on this axle. So in short, I'm going to pull out my new Harbor Freight drill or grinder. What did I get here? The Chicago grinder. And I'm going to start grinding that perch off of there. I have brand new perches on the way, designed for this axle. And then I have a welder located about 18 miles away or so that said he was willing to MIG weld the new perches on there to my specifications. So that's what we're going to do. So I'll give you an update when there is an update, but for now, we're still trying to figure out our axles. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel lucky enough to drive my unit across the United States with the 3.5 degree difference on the perches. So something to think about. We'll leave it in your hands. I do have names and contacts for both Dexter and Lippert. I didn't talk to Dexter directly, but I have a name and a phone number. I also have a name and a phone number of who told me at Lippert it should be within 1 degree. Don't know what to tell you. I have my information. I'm not going to start spreading rumors or anything around. Let's just see where this goes. I'm sure this is going to be an interesting post once you see it on YouTube. So for now, we'll talk to you later. So a quick note, and for proof that the axle was installed incorrectly, if you look behind that wheel, you can see some wires coming out of the back side of the axle. You go to this axle, you'll notice there's no wires coming out. But if I rotate this around, you'll notice that the wires are right here. Whoops, sorry. Trying to do two things at once. The wires are on the front side. So that goes to show you that the guy really didn't know how to install an axle. So I just wanted to prove that to you. So I'm gonna go to work and start cutting off the one perch off of the other axle, and then I'm all right. I got the one saddle off. I pretty much cut just the saddle. I think I might have nicked the axle just a little bit there, but nothing dramatic. Now I'm gonna grind it down flush. All right, good afternoon. It's July 15th. A couple days ago, I went ahead and mounted the second axle, which is my forward axle, back on the rig. This is the new one. I had the perch, that's this piece here, re-welded on because the repair guy had actually welded it on 3.5 degrees off of level with the perch on the other side. And that was not acceptable to me. In fact, when I called Lippard said less than 1 degree. Which incidentally, the other axle, the first axle that he put on, was within 1 degree. So I did not have to cut any perches off of that one. But I did have to rotate the axle around. Why? It says in the instructions, make sure that the label and the wires are pointing aft or towards the rear bumper. Okay, so this one is ready to be assembled. The brake backing plate and the hubs are shipped separately. So I am ready now to mount. Okay, Ethel, you're gonna continue sniffing that? Okay, it looks like I have. I am going to continue with the assembly. Here is the brake backing plate. I am going to mount it on those studs. Make sure my wire isn't pinched back there. When I went to take the backing plates off the other one, because I thought there was a specific left and right hand side, which apparently all they do is change the label. I see no other difference. I had to take the backing plates off, but the repair guy tightened them so tight that the studs, which are press fitted to the axle, started spinning. So I ended up having to use a pair of channel locks to hold the heads while I was taking it apart. When I put it back together, there was a spare set of bolts for one axle in the package for the new axle. I never received the parts for the old axle. So what I did is I used the new bolts, which included the nuts for this axle. So I just came back from Lowe's, got some grade 5 3/8 nuts, and some star washers, which is exactly what the other bolts were. They had the star washers that were attached to the nut head, so it's the same thing. So that's what I'm doing here. I don't want to bore you with this.
Tap the screen. What's that? Tap the screen.
Oh, why? You want to see if you could see me?
Yeah.
Oma wants to see if the recording is still going on as planned. I set the camera. You know, there's a screensaver on those GoPros.
It's still going.
Yep, I know it is. And again, this is the way I do it. I followed the instructions 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
Are you laughing over there?
Yeah, I am.
Oma's laughing at me. The reason you want to use a star washer on these is because oh, I got 2 nuts and no washers. Here we go. Because you're only torquing these to 35 foot-pounds, and the star washer kind of bites into the metal, both the metal and the nut, and prevents it from coming loose. So there. I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten them. We use a star pattern to tighten, and then I'm gonna get the torque wrench out, and I'm gonna torque them to 35 foot-pounds. And then I'm going to go pack the bearings. What's going on there? Oh, wasn't holding it right. Then I'm going to go pack the bearings and build the hubs up, which if you want to see, I'm going to show you. Again, this is my way of doing it. I used to repack bearings by putting the grease in the palm of my hand and filling the bearings that way. But as I got older, I realized I don't want to do it that way no more. So I use a little bearing grease tool. Okay, I'm going to stop it for a few minutes, get my torque wrench set up, and get these bolts torqued. 35 foot-pounds is what I'm doing them to. All right, so I'm back. I have my torque wrench, and I have it set for 35 foot-pounds. So let's see. Okay. I like to do it in stages, depending on how it feels. As you can tell, the bolts weren't quite tight enough yet, so it's taking a little more. I don't like to torque the first bolt all the way to 35. I've been doing this since I was a teenager. How to torque? Maybe it might not. Well, it looks like we're gonna have to go a little more.
Teenager, holy cow.
At least I'm not putting 300 pounds or whatever on these little bolts. Not my 300 pounds, somebody else's gorilla hands. There we go, there's one. There's 2. 3. 4. 5. I'm just going to double check the first one. Make sure nothing came loose. Okay, I'm going to go grab the seal that goes on here. What I like to do is before I install the seal on the hub is, now that it's nice and warm outside, I like to pre-fit it on here while I build my bearings up. And then when I come back to put the seal in, the seal is kind of like what I call pre-stretched a little bit. These edges here can be pretty sharp when you're trying to push your seal over the top of that, because that's where that goes. And if you don't hold this just right, you could tear your seal, which was evident, by the way, on both the seals on the other side. What I forgot to tell you is I ended up buying a whole new set of bearings because the bearings that were installed on the first axle, the grease was black under 900 miles. 900 miles of use. So here, let me back off my torque wrench. All good mechanics back off the tension they put on torque wrenches because they're spring loaded and you don't want the spring to stretch. Okay, that's done. I'll pull that out later. And Let me take you for a little walk. Say hi, Oma.
I'm babysitting the girls.
There's the girls. Sorry about them. Whoop. Ethel just loves it, sitting there looking underneath the camper. Lucy's got to sit in mommy's lap. Okay. All right, try not to make you too dizzy here. Walk over to my neighbor's house. Oh, wait a minute, that neighbor is me. Okay. So, here's what we got, guys. Oh. I'll put it in the sun. It's a little warm today. As you can see, those bearing, that's after 900 miles. We have a strong feeling that the spindle nut was too tight. And then when it got hot, because the seal, this is actually seal material right here, peeled off. A little bit of grease was on the brake shoes and everything, which I washed off with brake fluid. That one's wiped off. It wasn't that clean, but look at the grease. Look how black that is. That should not be like that after 900 miles. That means it got over hot. And I'm going to tell you, hopefully show you the proper way to torque a spindle nut. There's people out there that all do it different ways, but I'll show you how I do it. Okay, let me take a break. I'm going to go take the new seal and put it on the shaft and then come back and start packing bearings. All right, I went out to the shed. I found the seal. I put just a little bit of grease on it. The direction it goes on when it's in the hub is the open area, not the flat area, on first. They do build these, so they do try to go up over those lips. Anyway, like I said, I like to put these on, check them for a fit, and just let them pre-stretch a little bit. Now, if you look real close, you can see there's a spring on there, and the spring is holding it tight against the shaft. Also, I wanted to note that there's a hole right here. If you guys never seen the hole, some manufacturers put the hole in the side of the spindle. Other manufacturers put it right up here on the face of the spindle. And what that is that's your grease passage from the Zerk fitting down the center of this, comes out through here, and you'll see later as we fill this up that the grease passes through the bearings, through the hub. There's a big open area in the hub, through the second bearing, and then comes out through the past the lock nut on the end of the spindle. But I'll show that to you too. I don't know how this turned into a how-to video, but I think I had so much displeasure by the previous install by a professional, that I just knew that I needed to do this myself. Too many rookies out there don't know what they're doing. Okay, going to go stuff bearings. All right. So this is these are the hubs that were provided with my new axle. This is looking at the back side. This right here is the race for the inner bearing. The seal will be pushed in here once the bearing is in, and then the other bearing will go on the other side. They ship with a little bit of a light coating on them, and I usually like to clean that off a little bit. Just be careful when you're using rags, any place that's not machined. This is machined, this isn't here. That will tear the rag apart and stick to that. So try not to put it on there. So I'm just using regular old brake cleaner. And I'm gonna get that nice and clean. sprayed all over myself. And you can't see it, but there's a, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little bit of a residue that I just got out of there. That's probably the remnants of the machining process, like machine dust. So like I said, I just like to clean that off of there, even though they don't expect it to look brand new, spanking new. Okay, I am satisfied with that. Just like I said, I'm just trying to get that, some of that machine stuff and a little bit of that coating off of there. Okay, sorry to leave you in the dark there. Okay, now let me see. Set this up. See if I can show you the next process. This is a bearing greaser. This is what's going to pre-lube the bearing. So what I like to do, I just used this, you know, less than 5 days ago, but I'll wipe it off a little bit. Make sure that the grease that was on it didn't accumulate any dirt. Let's see, hopefully you can see me. Let me move that over just a little bit more. Okay. All right, throw that in there. All right. Put this like that, my brand new bearing. Take this apart. And you stick the bearing on there. Now, some people stick it on this way, some people stick it on this way. I'll stick it on this way. The grease will go in through this and come out through the bottom here when it's full. It won't necessarily come out through all the rollers, but it does pass all the way through the bearing. In other words, it's not as good as the palm method, but it's sure a heck of a lot cleaner. Okay, all right. You just put your grease gun on it and you start filling it up. Incidentally, I am using Lucas Red and Tacky. Now, one of the reasons I'm using that is because if water did ever penetrate the axles, the Red and Tacky will not mix with it. It will still be, maintain its lubrication. We got going here. Anything coming out the back yet? Let me move this over a little bit. Let me see. Nothing yet. Okay. It's a good high temp grease. It did not make the manufacturer's list of preferred lubricants. There we go. We got her. You see the grease coming out of the bottom there? Set that up there. See the grease coming out of the bottom? Even though it isn't coming out of the sides yet, it will when we go to fill up the spindle. Okay. Now we're going to pop the bearing out and stick it in the wheel drum. Now you'll notice when I showed this to you before, it had a cylindrical size to it, So the narrow side would have to go in first. So just grab the whole thing, grease and all, and just drop it down in there. Okay? Now I'm going to do the other bearing, and then I'm going to go grab the seal, come in, and put the seal in. Why do I need to put the seal in? Because it holds this bearing in. And if you don't do it, it will fall out on you. So we'll do this again with another bearing. Okay, as you can see, the spindle side is a lot smaller. Stick that on there. Spin that all the way down. Just snug. There we go. I don't know if you'll see this one as well as the last one, but we will try. And of course it's not going to take as much grease, other than I have to fill that void up again, because what it does is it fills that center void up, forces it through the top of the bearing to come out the bottom. So, lay down a little bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, it looks like it's going in now. Is that coming out? Yep. Okay, that's it. Both bearings have been filled. Do not try to put your hubs together with getting grease in your bearings. This is better than nothing. If you don't put nothing in there, there's a good chance that you're going to end up with a dry bearing, and it's going to cause you problems. So, all right. I'm going to go get the seal. Be right back. All right, I'm back with the seal. Again, the open area goes towards the bearing. The flat side goes up. These things have a press fit to them. Don't take a hammer and try to tap it all the way around. Eventually, you're going to put a ding in it. Find yourself a nice flat piece of 4x4. Why 4x4? Because it goes across the whole diameter of the seal. Give it a little tap. As you see, I got it started all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it now. Not quite. It's not quite all the way down. Nope, still not quite. Probably for the sake of video, I'm probably not. No, a little bit more. Yeah, pretty close. I think I got a high spot right there. There we go. Maybe one more spot right there. All right. I feel good with that. Okay. Probably saw a couple pieces of wood or something, or dust come off of it, but nothing went inside. Okay. I'm ready to grab that bearing, that little bearing, and this hub, and meet you back at the axle. All right, we're back. We are now ready to install the hub. We've got the inside bearing and the seal on. We have to work it on the shaft first, carefully, so we don't tear the seal. And then we're gonna put the inner bearing on. The inner bearing, I might as well get this separated here so I can grab it as soon as the hub is on, because I don't have 3 hands.
Here we go. Get another rag. You go through a lot of rags with one of these jobs. Get a box of them. Okay. All right. So, we're now going to work the hub over the shaft. Of course, you want to be center. And once you get over the brake shoes, get your fingers out of the way. Now the brakes are sort of supporting it. Now you'll notice that it wants to stop right there. That doesn't mean that it's on all the way. That means you're up to the seal. So at this point, you have to do a little lifting and a little pushing. Let's see how quick I can do it. Looks like I got it. Yep, I think I got it. I think I'm all the way on. Remember, the front end isn't being supported right now because the bearing isn't in there. So I'm going to pop the bearing in there. Push it all the way in. There we go. See, it kind of bound up a little bit, but it went in. That low dragging that you might hear, there goes one of my rags. That low dragging you hear is probably the, it's not probably, it is. It's the brake shoe dragging a little bit, which is a good sign because when you do your final setup, you want to make sure you are dragging just a little bit. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Let me get my, no, don't go nowhere. Got a little bit of a breeze going today, which is kind of comforting because it's up in the upper 80s. But I'm working in the shade, as you can see. Okay, now you have a large washer. This is what's going to hold that bearing in place. Then you have a large nut. Thank you. That has to be put on. Okay. I do not have a socket for this nut. They want you to torque it between 30 to 40 foot-pounds or until your hub starts getting tight. Okay? All right, so that's what I'm going to do. That's pretty tight there. Go a little bit tighter. Make sure you move it. All right, I think, no, a little bit more. But I can already tell where the pin is going to go because I'm not going to get it much tighter. All right, that's pretty snug. I can feel that. That's snug. Here's what the manufacturer says. Once you get it torqued to 30 to 40 foot-pounds, loosen the nut. Okay? Go back and tighten it by hand. Where is your pinhole? Does your pinhole line up? Mine does not. See that? I can't get my cotter pin in there. Back it off to the next hole. Okay? It may seem like it's loose, but you got to have expansion. These things get hot. If you don't let them expand, they do what you saw on my previous video there when I showed you black bearings. So I'm using a little bit larger pin. I didn't like, maybe I should compare for you. Here, let me pull that back out. This was the manufacturer's pin. This is my pin. Okay. This is the pin that was in my last axles. So I'd rather go with the upgraded pin. Yeah, sure, this will go in. It'll fall right in there. But it could, to me, it could shear just as easy. So I don't like using them. My choice. My axle. Again, all the way snug. Just to let you know how far I'm going. You see the one notch is here. I'm going back to that notch before I put the pin in. Okay. Probably shouldn't show you this because I'm too lazy to go get my hammer.
You want your hammer?
No, I got it. There we go. I'm not hurting anything. It's just a tap. And then what you want to do is you want to roll your cotter pins all the way back up against the Now you see it looks like the nut is loose, right? That is the correct way to do this, folks. When I had to take the other ones off to switch the axle, I had to use a screwdriver and a hammer to knock that loose. Okay? Those are supposed to be loose like that. Now we're going to put some grease in it. Be right back. Oh, yeah. Okay. Next phase, I'm getting ready to grease it. I am going to put grease in here while rotating this until grease shows up coming through the hub and through the bearing. I just wanted to point out that Lippert, at least this axle, does not come with the rubber cap. If you don't get one with the rubber cap, you're going to end up having to take your wheel off to remove the metal cap to get to this Zerk fitting on the end of your posi lube. So with this, that eliminates some of the work that you have to do. Maybe they do it on purpose. Maybe they want you to take your wheel off so you can inspect bearings and stuff. Hey, it's not a bad way to make some extra money. All right, so we are now going to lube. See if I can get this. Now this is going to take a little bit, and it's going to take quite a bit of grease. Whoop, it popped off. I gotta pause a minute, phone call. All right, I'm back. I added grease a little bit while Oma was telling me who was on the phone. And as I do this, it's becoming easier, which I wanted to point out to you, which is the reason I turned on the camera. I'm not sure how much this grease gun delivers. Don't be surprised it takes nearly a half a tube to fill this up, guys. That grease turns almost, when it gets hot enough, kind of turns to a liquid, and it helps it flow through the bearings. By the way, I was just sitting here thinking while I was doing this, some of your locking mechanisms may be different. This one happens to use a cotter pin. Some of them have a cap that goes over the nut that have little metal tabs on them. And the metal tabs go in between each one of those grooves to prevent it from turning. So, I don't know how many other ones there are. I had one that went on the shaft first because there was a flat on the shaft, and then after you put the nut on, you bent the tab over into one of those notches. By the way, that spindle that I lost over there, that's the first spindle I've lost since I started towing heavy recreational vehicles / boats. That's the very first time I ever lost a spindle. I've never even lost a bearing before. All right, good news. Here comes the grease. You could probably see it coming. Now, what I've done is I forced it back through that rear inner bearing, through the outer bearing, and we're kind of getting a little reservoir here. And don't be afraid to overfill it a little bit, guys. Some guys will put the cap on and overfill it. I don't want to go that far because I want to leave just a little bit of room for expansion. I'm gonna call it right there. Okay. So you saw the black grease in the last one. It's red grease here. Now I'm gonna put the cap on. Very carefully. I might add. All right. Hey, oh my! Now I need my little hammer.
Where is it, in the shed?
Or better yet, that 4x4 block of wood. I'll just tap it in using that. It's laying in the shed, yeah. All right, she's gonna get that. At this point, I do not have the wires connected yet. I'll come back and show you the wire connectors I'm using. They're waterproof. And then that's later. That'll be long after I put the tires back on. So I don't think I'm, just by the sound of that, I don't think I'm gonna be having to adjust any brakes. Okay, I gotta tap that a little bit on the top. All right, it's being stubborn. I don't really want to do that.
It's on.
Not all the way. Now it is. See, I can't get my fingernail behind it. That's it, guys. That's how I build up. My wheels. I'm gonna put the tire on, but I gotta move the camera out of the way. I gotta get the bottle jack underneath there, lift it up, and put the wheel on. And I hope all of you know how to put a tire on. All right, good morning. It's Saturday the 18th. I didn't quite get done the other day because, yep, last wheel, I damaged a seal. Anyway, that's behind me now. The other wheel's already on. I already hooked up the brake lines. I just hooked up these brake lines. I just wanted to show you what I was using. These are called 3M 314s. They're waterproof connectors. Even though this side is only a double conductor, I still bought only one size for both sides, because you have a pair of wires coming out of your underbelly that go to your brakes. Then you have the brake shoe, and then you have the wire that comes over to this side. So you need a triple for the other side. You only need a double here, but I just bought one size. One size fits all. What you do is you just put the wires inside these sealed holes, and then you squeeze it closed, and it pinches the wires off. Anyway, we're getting ready to test the brakes. Oma, go ahead and start the truck. Because of the hooking these up, I want to make sure that all the brakes work. Okay, so I did the first one. What I do is I hook up the wires, I spin the wheel, and then I tell Oma to hit the brake controller to make sure that it locks the brake, so stops the wheel. Are you ready? Go ahead. Yep, as you can hear, it locked it up tight. Okay, release it. Do it again. Okay, and I can't move it, so that wheel's done. Now, you probably heard it release right there. If you don't know how electric brakes work, that little magnet that was on the bottom grabs the wheel and pulls the brake shoe outward to grab the brake drum. So that magnet is actually grabbing the inside of the wheel. That's why it's important that you don't have grease in there or dirt or anything, that you have a nice clean surface. So now I'm gonna go do the other ones. Okay, Oma, thank you. So I don't know if you can see it, but what I've done is I wired the harness to the axle on this side of the spring, and then on this side, I don't know if I hope there's enough battery life. On this side, I just go between the shackle and the axle with one wire tie and just put those two wires together. It's important to keep the wires behind the axle in case you're going down the road and you find some debris, it doesn't grab your brake wire and yank it out. So make sure you wire tie them behind the axle. Okay, well that pretty much completes our brake install, or our new axle install. Hope you guys enjoyed it. From Flinton, Pennsylvania. Come here, helper. From Flinton, Pennsylvania, Oma and I say toodaloo.
Okay, are you still with me? All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like I said, I did make a mistake. I gave you a hint. Did you catch it? It was the brake assemblies. There's a long shoe and a short shoe. The short shoe is supposed to be facing towards the front of the RV. If you looked in the video, you'll notice the long shoe was. Why did I do it this way? I haven't had to put a brake assembly like that together in a long time, and I followed what the previous installer did. But now I realize that when he put the brake assemblies on the axle, he put them on right, but when he put the axle on wrong, the brakes were on the wrong side. When I took that axle off, I wanted to make sure I didn't switch anything. I took those assemblies off and laid them right on the ground on the side I took them off. So if you're getting ready to put brake assemblies on, remember, left hand is driver's side, right hand is passenger side. They are marked. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I won't bore you anymore. Remember, if you want to keep with up-to-date of what we're doing, it's better not to have to wait for these videos because you never know when I might get them posted. Look for us on YouTube, on Facebook. It's Opa and Oma's Camping Adventures. Again, on Facebook. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Bye now.